And our first dog and handler is Anne Martins, running Hanuman, a Border Collie. Right, so as you can see, we've got a nice 1, 2, 3 straight line up. The first decision point on the course here is how the handler chooses to get the dog onto that dog walk. There's a very big tunnel trap. Nicely up around the top there and back now down into the tunnel. Blind switch across at 10. And again sending the dog into the weaves, but just picking up 5 there for a refusal on the entry. This time the handler crossing behind the dog, round to the seesaw. And the dog taking a bit of an off-course round turn there. Finishing now, just 2 to go before we do our baton change to the next handler. So this is Johan de Kegel running Hedda, another Border Collie. And you can see that Johan has made a different choice here, coming down the right-hand side of the dog walk. And just picking up a pole there at number 7. Now the dog sends into the tunnel, across 10 up to this top tunnel, coming down now round and turning back into the weaves. Again picking up a 5-fault refusal on the weave entry there. Dog turning back now down onto the seesaw. And a right-hand turn now back up to the A-frame. Jumping up and picking up another 5 faults there on the A-frame down contact. Swapping to the final dog and handler, which is Melissa Mankey, running Marty McFly. And this is another Border Collie. So within this team, Hanuman and Hedda are 2 brothers, 8.5 years old, and Marty McFly is a baby of 4 years old. So now clear so far, coming down to the weaves and picking up a nice weave entry, although the dog did nearly overshoot there, so very lucky to stay clear with that one. Now up and over the A-frame. So just 2 to go. Right, so there we have for a time of 125.550 and a total of 25 faults. Right, our next team is the Belgium 5 large team. This is Crystal Sawyers running first. And the dog's name is Beautiful Days, Courage of Life. So you can see that here the first dog and handler are able to lead out, whereas the subsequent second and third handlers don't get that opportunity because of the baton change. And this dog has just been eliminated there, picking up an elimination for the tunnel rather than the dog walk. The dog's quite determined to do that tunnel. Now carrying on up this slalom up the top of the course. Turning round back to the tunnel, this time not wanting to take the tunnel and taking the jump instead. So across 10 up to the top tunnel at number 11, pulling back now into the weaves. And now turning back to the A-frame. Lovely run through contact there. Now handing over to the second handler, who is Eve Maurice, running IMAC, another Border Collie. So Eve making a different combination there to pull the dog onto the dog walk. So that's tunnel across number 10 up to the top tunnel. And now sending the dog out, but again picking up 5 refusal there on the weaving poles. Handler crossing at the end of the weaves before the seesaw. Now coming back round to the A-frame. Dog deciding to take it easy. Make sure they don't get any more faults. So handing over to the third handler. Just making sure that Eve's got his dog back before they start. This is Walter Dingemans. Nice of you to come by, Double Dice is the dog's name. So nice tight line through that slalom at the top, and now back to the tunnel. Front cross there at number 10 and sending the dog out now down to the weaves and crossing behind. Lovely weaving action on this dog. Nice solid seesaw contact, and now back up to the A-frame. So just 2 to go now. There we go. So a time of 134.236. And they had 1 clear round, 5 faults and an elimination. Right, so the next team into the arena is the Netherlands 5 team. So first dog and handler is Pim Taffin with Boreal Eclipse, a border collie. Right, so a nice line there up to the top, and Pim just getting the dog's attention back, but unfortunately picking up a refusal there as the dog ran actually around the back of the tunnel and under the dog walk. So Pim, I know, has been coming to this competition for many years and usually carries on and goes to dogs in need to compete there as well. Dog just picking up a refusal on the weave entry there. So Pim taking the dog back to start again. Now straightening the dog back up to the seesaw. Turning around now back to the A-frame. Taking that contact nice and carefully. So just 3 to go now. There you go, and handling on to our next handler, which is Carl de Rook, running Munchausen's Hurricane. And this is a Belgian Tervuren. Sending the dog up onto the dog walk. Getting ahead to make sure of the contact on the down of the dog walk there. Oh, and the dog just ducked between 7 and 8 there to actually pick up an elimination. But carrying on, as the dog has no idea it's been eliminated. So carrying on now back into the weaving poles. Love watching these Belgians through the weaves. They look very much like German Shepherds, the same sort of foot action. Nice tight turn at 15, coming back to the A-frame. Coming up around now to hand over to the last handler, which is Heli Hogeslag, running Typical Tip of the Old Fox Mountains. It's a nice quick run up the top there and a very solid entry onto the dog walk there. No question of the entry, but unfortunately picking up 5 faults on the down, as the dog did take a little bit of a leap. Now straightening the dog up 10 to 11. Sending the dog out to the poles, but again, that line, it's hard to see without actually being in the arena, but that line down between that jump 12 and the weaves, it's not a very obvious line for the dogs, so it's understandable that they don't perhaps pick up that line very naturally. So now just coming down, just 2 to go. There we go, a nice time of 150.389 with 30 faults plus a refusal, an elimination, sorry. Right, so entering the arena now, we have the first of our home nation teams. This is the England 2 team. And running first is going to be Megan Hunt with Time. So Megan starting off nice and confidently up the line there, taking a blind switch to straighten the dog onto the dog walk. Now I'm going to pretend that I know much about these two, but I understand they've just recently won into grade 7. So to have done so well and been selected into the British team is a fantastic Nations Cup experience for them, I'm sure. So coming back up and around. Right, so coming up to the finish now and handing over to our second dog and handler, which is Steve Seal with Fleck. So Steve managing to straighten the dog up, but the dog did actually ask a fairly big question there about whether Steve meant what he was saying. Just picked up a refusal there on jump number 7. Now coming over and getting back into the tunnel. Picking up the line into the weaves. Fleck looking very confident on that weave entry. Now back to the seesaw. Coming back up now. So just 4 obstacles to go. There we go. And handing over now. A little bit of a messy handover there with Fleck going back over the start jump. But this is now Leslie Osborne running Rebel. I think Leslie thought he was going to be running 2 dogs around the course there. Leslie, of course, a very experienced handler as well. Sending the dog nicely out to the weaving poles now, and another dog having trouble picking up that weave entry. Just picking up that first pole seems to be a bit of a challenge for them, probably because they're going so fast downhill. So turning back, coming up now to the A-frame. And just 3 to go. So that's Team England 2, and they had 1 clear round plus 2 refusals and a time of 123.908 seconds. Right, next into the arena we have Rest of the World 7 team. And first to run will be Christine Lord, running A Little Walk of Fame. And she is a miniature American Shepherd. Or he, I can't tell from here. So a nice blind switch between 3 and 4 to send the dog into the tunnel. Straightening up quite nicely onto the dog walk. Out around the back of number 7 and coming down to the tunnel, sending the dog into the tunnel at the top. Now coming back to the weave entry, dog shortening her stride beautifully to pick up a nice solid entry there and making her opinion very clearly known on what she thought about the seesaw and the A-frame. So just 3 to go now. So now Christine hands over to Claire Todd. And she's running Storm's Macy May Be the One. Handing the dog from behind this time, and a lovely solid contact, solid up contact into the dog walk. And now turning around and sharpening the dog into the tunnel, and now back to the weaving poles. And yes, there we go, that weaving demon entry has struck again. As I say, the dogs are travelling very fast and it is downhill, so perhaps we give them some credit for the issue they're having with that entry. Right, so just 2 to go now, and handing over to Natalie de Court-Tarrant, running Eden van Bix Huisk, a red and white border collie. So the handler crossing behind the dog walk there to pick up the good line 6, 7, 8. Turning the dog now back to the tunnel. Sending on up the top. Now let's see this weave entry. Again, another one picking up a refusal on that weave entry. So sharpening down round to straighten the line onto the seesaw. Sending the dog out over the last 3 obstacles. There we go. So that is a time of 126.125, 1 clear plus 15 faults for Rest of the World 7. Right, so is there anyone sitting around the rings from Scotland? Woohoo! I thought there might be. Yeah, you're very quiet. Right, so Scotland 1 team running now, and our first dog and handler is Donna Kerse running Ace the Border Collie. So Donna opting to cross behind 3 to straighten the dog into the tunnel. Picking up 5 there for the down on the dog walk, and then another 5 for the pole at number 7 into the tunnel, marking the nice clear cross between those 2 tunnels. And Donna opting for a blind to straighten the dog up, which actually was very effective. Now coming right round back to the A-frame. So 3 to go here. And Donna is going to hand over to Kyle Davidson, running Scream. Scream's a working sheepdog. And just picking up a pole there at number 8 for 5 faults. And now Kyle making his decision there to send the dog in and then cross behind at the weaving poles. And now around to the seesaw. Bit of a loose turn back up to the A-frame, but it'd give the dog a very nice line for the entry. And now Kyle hands over to Ewan Patterson, running Sweep. And Ewan doing a lovely double blind there to straighten the dog up perfectly. A nice cautious anchor dog performance here with a very cautious dog walk, but clear would be good at this point. Oh, I do believe that may be commentator's curse. I am so sorry, Ewan. I will be banned from commentating on any teams again for Scotland again. So Sweep now coming back up and around for the A-frame. Then just 4 to go. So that's Scotland won with a combined time of 132.091, 15 faults plus an elimination.